Dragon Ball Lao Su is the god of destruction. Chapter 41-60. Chapter 41. Such a cheap Frieza. Well, it's not bad, it's even better if you focus on it. The god of destruction gave a wicked smile, ignoring Frieza's terrified little eyes, who had been beaten like a real dead dog. Okay, Beulah, the afterburner starts. Kurd nodded at Beulah, and the two immediately accelerated their attack. In an instant, the two kicked Frieza hundreds of times. Mom, save me, I'm dying. Frieza cried and shouted. Originally he didn't care, but the two dogs, Kurd and Beulah, seemed to be kicking harder and harder, and both of them were getting harder and harder. And Beulah Gong reported his personal revenge, and every kick was kicked with his toes. The toes of the Frozen clan are simply alls. Haha, my stupid brother, our mother and father are the same person. While Beulah was talking, he secretly increased his strength, and Kurd on the other side also sensed the increase in strength, and he couldn't help but increase his strength on his feet. Okay, kick this kid again and he'll die. The god of destruction looked at Frieza, who was foaming at the mouth, and knew that the king couldn't hold it any longer. It seemed that the fact that the Frozen demons didn't have many family values should be true. One's own life can do this kind of abuse. Yes. God of destruction is what you say. After speaking, Kurd did not forget to lift Frieza, who was really a dead dog on the ground. I don't know why the god of destruction came to my Frozen clan this time. Kurd couldn't help swallowing, knowing that the last time the god of destruction came, the entire Frozen demon family had changed from a large race of hundreds of people to a rare race that now only has its own family. This time, if I give my family one more visit, it may be the extinction of the family. Well, I just heard that you are claiming to be the overlord of the universe in the universe recently. The god of destruction, with his hands behind his back, said to Kurd with a smile. Suddenly, Kurd's cold sweat flowed down. Lord God of destruction, I have never said this sentence, someone must have slandered me, but I have always been under the banner of only one god of destruction. Besides, look at the villain, no matter how ugly he looks, so stupid wouldn't be the material to be the overlord of the universe. Kurds don't hesitate to devalue what they think is the most perfect face in order to survive. Oh, is it? The god of destruction smiled slightly and stared at Kurd, so scared that Kurd's face changed drastically. I testify that everything my father said is true. He respects your old man very much. At this moment, Frieza, who was lifted by Kurdish in his hand, opened his eyes above the pig's head and said weakly. Kurd's body was shocked, looking at Beulah, who was frightened like a stupid dog, and then looking at the disabled Jujian, Frieza, who was beaten to death by himself and had to defend himself. Kurd's heart trembled slightly. Good son, be sure to treat him well in the future. The god of destruction also glanced at Frieza, who was being lifted up in the air in surprise. Tell me how your father respects me. The god of destruction asked indifferently. At this time, Kurd also put down Frieza. Frieza, who landed on the ground, patted the dust on his body and slowly walked towards the god of destruction with his little hands behind his back. My father, but every day he puts the name of the god of destruction on his mouth. Every day, he uses a special liquid to rub the name of the god of destruction. Frieza's words surprised everyone. But even an idiot could tell that Frieza was trying to praise his father, and he was going to do something at this time. Sure enough, when the god of destruction asked what kind of liquid Kurd was rubbing with. What else could it be? Of course it's peeing. After saying that, Frieza rushed behind the god of destruction and hid. Damn Frieza, you have the seeds for me to come out, I'm going to kill you. Kurd roared at Frieza, who was hiding behind the god of destruction. Lord God of destruction, look, this kid wants to kill and kill, his heart can be punished, there must be a ghost in his heart, hurry up and kill him. Frieza's mean-looking appearance makes it impossible to imagine that this is a child who has just been born. P.S. Today's 5 chapters are finally over. Report the data. The current flowers say 14,700. When it reaches 17,000, A new chapter will be added. The reward has reached 5 and another chapter will be added tomorrow. Time to add another chapter. Just look at tomorrow morning. There is a big boss who is the first to order from Marvel and salted fish can only rely on you guys. Chapter 42. Who else is worse than me? Come here. Looking at Frieza, who was pouting and hooking his fingers at himself, Kurd was so angry that he wanted to go back to the moment Frieza was born and pinched him to death. And just when Frieza was complacent, Whis, who was behind the god of destruction, suddenly laughed evilly at Frieza's pouting little butt. Immediately, his hand was empty, and a wooden stick appeared in his hand. Ha ha ha, the dog by Kurd, there is something to beat me, and you dare to use Lao Su as a ball, you are tired of life. Suddenly, Frieza's proud face changed dramatically. Tremblingly, he turned his head, which was swollen like a pig's head, to the back. Just happened to see this guy Weiss holding a stick and sticking it on his chrysanthemum. Immediately, Frieza burst into tears. I'm just a cute little kid, why is everyone targeting me? Frieza burst into tears in an instant. From being smashed into a dog just after being born, to being beaten up by the elder brother, and then to the mixed doubles of father and son, and finally Chrysanthemum was also exploded. Who else is worse than me? It's alright, Weiss, what are you doing? You don't let a child go, and Kurd, are you courting death? I like this kid, and whoever dares to beat him will have a hard time with me. At this moment, a sound of heavenly sounds came from the side of the Emperor of the Universe. The Emperor of the Universe raised his head to face the sunlight and just saw the god of destruction standing beside him yelling at the others. This is the Savior, the great Savior. I don't need to be beaten. The Emperor of the Universe suddenly felt that he had found a support and a support. At this moment, he had the urge to provoke Kurd again. The face of Kurd on the opposite side changed suddenly, and he hurriedly said flatteringly towards the god of destruction. Yes, the god of destruction taught me a lesson, but how could we beat the Emperor of the Universe? He is my little treasure. If Kurd is sincere, others will definitely spit if they see it. The paralyzed one who had the most fun just now was you, and now you say that the Emperor of the Universe is your baby. Dad, didn't you say your brother deserves a beating? Beulah on the side said suspiciously, and suddenly Kurd's smiling face stiffened. Paralyzed, why did Lao Su give birth to such two heartless things? This is to kill Lao Su. Kurd regretted a lot, wouldn't it be good to live his own life alone? Why did you want your brain to get hot in the first place and jerk yourself off? Okay, I'm not in the mood to listen to your family's nonsense. This kid will take good care of him and don't let him die. After kicking the Cosmic Emperor who was lying on the ground and pouting his ass, the god of destruction didn't think it was any fun. I don't know why he is so skinny at such a young age, he is simply a bare child alive. Yes, I will take good care of him. Kurd wiped a cold sweat. By the way, I need your help with something. Suddenly, the god of destruction seemed to have thought of something. Although the adults say it, the villains will definitely do it. Kurd patted his chest assuring. Well, it's just helping me get my makeup for a few weeks, and all the planets on this list for me to destroy. The god of destruction smiled and took out a long list, making Kurd pale. Fuck, so much, I don't know how many years it will take to destroy it. Kurd suddenly felt that the world was spinning. If he really went to work, what would he do with his huge universe? What? It's inconvenient. Forget it, I'll find someone else. The god of destruction said to Kurd with a smile, but these calm words made Kurd break into a cold sweat all of a sudden. No, how could it be inconvenient? I can do things for the god of destruction, I am too happy. After receiving Kurd's assurance, the god of destruction nodded slightly and then soared into the sky, disappearing in front of Kurd's spaceship. I squeezed, and finally left. Lord Destruction God is really strong, and I shivered a little when I saw him. Kurd sighed and said, striding towards the spaceship. Ah, my hand. Suddenly, Kurd felt that he had stepped on something, and then he looked down, and the hand of the Emperor of the Universe was at his feet. At first glance, there was a black and thick wooden stick stuck on the Cosmic Emperor's butt. Damn, I almost forgot about you. Kurd raised his foot quickly, then grabbed the black stick with one hand and pulled it out with force. Ah! After another shrill scream, the Emperor of the Universe rolled on the ground holding the chrysanthemum. Dad, the Emperor of the Universe is so miserable. Do you want to send her to the medical cabin first? Beulah saw that Kurd was still in a daze, and quickly reminded. Also too. Kurd reacted and hurriedly picked up the Cosmic Emperor and rushed into the spaceship, and threw it into the medical cabin. And Kurd ordered the spacecraft to fly to the nearest planet on the list given by the God of Destruction. Since then, Kurd has lived the life of a wage earner, and it is still the kind of life without wages. And Beulah and the Emperor of the Universe gradually grew up, and the two of them inherited half of the Kurdish territory. The remaining small piece was occupied by a Namekian named Slagu who started to clock in and work in Kurd, while the two brothers of the Universe Emperor were still young. Time passed quickly, until one day a relatively powerful race entered the vision of the Emperor of the Universe. This is a race known as a fighting nation. And the description of this race is exactly the same as the Saiyan described in the ancestral home of the Emperor of the Universe. Whoa, stuffed gums. Interesting. Chapter 43, Be My Woman. Since Bardock died 1,000 years ago, Bardock's wife, Florence's mother, took Florence's younger brother to re-establish a small tribe of Saiyans. However, the Saiyans were killed because of the battle between Bardock and Florence overnight, and the civilization was also destroyed. To make matters worse, an alien species, the Ziffel, arrives. Destroyed the original inhabited planet Plant overnight, and the Saiyans survived because of desperate resistance. However, they can only be reduced to slaves and savages. This period lasted for 100 years. During this period, the temper of the Saiyans became more and more violent. It was not until 100 years later that the number of Saiyans increased again, and finally completely destroyed the Ziffer star on the night of a full moon. And by virtue of the powerful technology of the Ziffers, the universe traveled, and he never stayed in this asteroid again. After that, the scope of Saiyan's conquest has become larger and larger. Later, the grandson of Florence's younger brother, the self-proclaimed prince, and named Prantiel as the Prince Planet. Each generation of princes is called a prince, and this supreme royal family rules the entire Saiyan race. It wasn't until this day, hundreds of years later, that the prince's father, Prince Wong, finally ascended the throne of the Saiyan king after the death of the old king. Just when he wanted to continue to expand the battle circle, a man who changed the fate of the Saiyans came to the Prince Planet. Weiss, why is this Saiyan so irritable? Look at you and see what happened to the originally beautiful plant star by them. On the street of the Saiyans, the God of Destruction and Wes were strolling on the street, and the surrounding shops were all sold by aliens, and they were all food or weapons. It is better to count on Saiyans to do business than to count on Wes to become a real man. Ho ho ho, God of Destruction, the lifespan of this planet is not long. It will be destroyed in a few decades. Would you like to take action earlier? Weiss said to the God of Destruction with a smile. Forget it, I'm a good man. Didn't you see that I haven't killed anyone at will in the past few hundred years? I'm a person who wants to be a model of morality. The God of Destruction gave Wes a disdainful smile. Ho ho ho, the God of Destruction still has the face to say, look, you've exhausted the Kurds. For hundreds of years, you've been busy destroying planets everywhere. Even the people of the universe have forgotten the true universe overlord back then. Wes, words made the God of Destruction blushed. I don't know how to dominate when he is idle every day. Look at how fulfilling his life is now. The God of Destruction laughed evilly, and then his eyes suddenly caught a familiar figure. Yo, Weiss, look, isn't that kid Bardock? Wes looked back, and sure enough, he saw Bardock, a young man who was still buying battle clothes, at the door of a shop where he was shopping. Oh, Xiaolunlin's father, isn't he dead? And why is he so young? Whis' cute face just happened to be seen by Bardock, who was shopping from a distance. I saw Bardock quickly walked in front of Whis. "Woman, be my wife." For a moment, the air suddenly stopped. "Wow, ka 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 ka. Whis called you a woman, ha 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 ha." I laughed so hard, ha 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 ha. The hilarious laughter of the god of destruction instantly spread throughout the entire Prince planet. And Whis' face turned into a pig's liver color. Although he was a bit of a fake mother, his sexual orientation was still very positive, otherwise the god of destruction would have kicked him long ago. Suddenly, Whis lifted Bardock and punched Bardock in the chest with his small fist. Boom boom boom. A loud roar echoed throughout the street. Bardock spat out a big mouthful of blood. "The old lady is a man, you actually confessed to me, I will kill you." Whis exploded with anger, and of course he was a bit measured and didn't get so angry that he wanted to kill Bardock. Finally, he looked at the dying Bardock and snorted coldly, then threw him to the ground. "Oh, it's so miserable." The god of destruction beside him laughed until his snot bubbles almost came out. Seeing Whis' puffed up appearance, the god of destruction thought of Florence. At this moment, he was a little suspicious whether Whis knew about such a scene 1,000 years ago, so he took Florence out of the little girl. Sure enough, there is a cycle of heaven. After sighing with emotion, the god of destruction still asked Whis to rescue the dying Bardock. Bardock, who slowly opened his eyes, saw that Whis was saving him. Sure enough, the goddess didn't reject me, so let me just say, I am Bardock, a jade tree facing the wind, suave, how could I be rejected? The only possibility is. Thinking of this, Bardock looked at the god of destruction with hatred. Dead meow, grab a woman with me, go to hell. Chapter 44, Strength is King. Looking at Bardock who was rushing towards him, the god of destruction immediately looked as ugly as eating a fly. To think that Lao Tzu likes Whis is blinding your dog's eyes. The god of destruction smirked evilly at the corner of Bardock's mouth, who had no scars. Immediately, a trace of energy emerged from the fingertips. Crack! There was a sudden pain in the face of the furious Bardock, and his pupils contracted violently. What? Bardock touched his cheek in disbelief, and found that there was blood. Leaving you a scar and giving you a little memory, not everyone can mess with it. The god of destruction's faint words struck Bardock's heart heavily. What a strong man, damn it, what is going on? When did Prince Planet have such a strong man? At this time, Bardock was only 17 or 18 years old, and his strength could be said to be the lowest in the entire Prince Planet. Even when the god of destruction first saw him, he never thought that Bardock would be so rude at this time. HMPH, god of destruction, let's go. This planet doesn't exist. Whis' icy face looked really angry, even the god of destruction was a little scared. Calm down, this planet is so dead, I've already thought about it, don't remember it at this moment. The god of destruction hurriedly comforted Whis, and with the assurance of the god of destruction, Whis slowly calmed down. And Bardock clenched his fists tightly listening to how the two discussed how to destroy the Prince planet. Damn, I'm going to tell the prince that I can't let these two succeed. Bardock wiped the blood on his face with his hand and glanced coldly at Whis and the god of destruction. Then he ran towards the prince's palace. His purpose is obvious, that is, to report the two gods of destruction. At this time, he was just an ordinary lower-level warrior. When he met the king, the result was predictable. Bardock clamored for someone to destroy the Prince planet, and directly let the guards of the king's palace arrest him. Bardock was tortured in prison, and was finally released because the Saiyan population was small. And since it was released, it was sent to the front line to start endless battles. After wandering about life and death again and again, Bardock finally woke up. In this world, everything is empty, only strength is king. Although he didn't understand why those two people didn't destroy Prince Planet, he was in no mood to pay attention to it. His battles became more and more frantic, and every time he died frequently and was rescued. So many life and death battles made his combat power skyrocket, and in just 5 years, he had reached 10,000 combat power. Countless lower fighters have emulated Bardock's near-suicidal style of fighting. And there are only two results. Either give up early because they can't bear it, or die in battle. Of course, there are also people who have grown rapidly in this way and come to Bardock's subordinates to accompany him. And their team name is called Bardock Squad. The prestige of this squad on the Prince planet is like the Genuit team under the Cosmic Emperor, and it belongs to the Ace Troop. Every victory of the Bardock team will not only not make the Prince happy, but will be jealous. But now he is not in the mood to pay attention to Bardock. Are you the Emperor of the Universe? In the Prince's palace. The Prince with a bloody mouth came out of the wreckage with an ugly expression and looked at the little old man sitting on the floating chair in front of him. After the Kurdish king retired to work as a coolie, the reputation of the Emperor of the Universe slowly spread throughout the universe. But at first, as a Saiyan, he just thought that the Emperor of the Universe was at most similar to himself, but he lived a little longer. But just now, just a pink fat man under the Cosmic Emperor beat himself to the point of powerlessness. At this moment, he completely understood the huge gap between the Emperor of the Universe and himself. Ho ha ho ho, Mr. Dodoria, are you hitting too hard? Look at how impolite it is to beat the Prince and King. The Emperor of the Universe smiled and joked at Dodoria. Yes, I was a little heavy, but I didn't expect the Saiyans, who are known as the first fighting nation in the universe, to be so weak. Although Dodoria was embarrassed, she was very disdainful in her actions. Dare to insult me? Damn, you wait for me. When did the young and vigorous prince suffer such grievances? After a roar, the prince broke through the roof in an instant and flew into the sky, leaving Dodoria Chambo with a confused look. Wow. Ellipsis 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 quote. After a beast roar, a huge soul quickly broke open the roof and stepped on the three of them. In the last few photos the author is laying the groundwork for the later stage. Everything happens for a reason. I just exaggerated his performance a bit. You may not like it a bit, but the foreshadowing has been completed. From the next chapter, it will be our most favorite Dragon Ball. Chapter 45. I, King Vegeta, will not yield even if I die. Dee boom. Dodoria originally wanted to see the combat effectiveness of this giant leg, but the combat effectiveness tester above the eyes exploded directly. What? This is the latest instrument that can test 30,000 combat power. Dodoria's face became ugly. It was Chambo, who didn't feel much at first, but his face was cold after seeing Dodoria's combat effectiveness tester explode. Damn, it's going to be that ugly look again. King Frieza, I'll go meet him. Shangbo looked at the giant legs that he stepped on, his face turned cold, and he rose into the sky. In an instant, he changed from a beautiful man to a monster with a frog mouth. However, the speed of the huge soul suddenly accelerated, and Chambo was caught off guard and his entire body was imprinted on the soles of the huge feet. Boom. After a roar, Shangbo was stepped on the ground dozens of meters. Dodoria, who was watching from the side, shuddered. Can't even Chambos take a blow. What the hell is going on with the Saiyan wild monkey? And the Cosmic Emperor on the side is bright. Is this the legendary Super Saiyan? No, it shouldn't be. The ancestral home says a golden-haired Saiyan, not such a gorilla. However, although it is not a Super Saiyan, this combat power of more than 100,000 can also reach the top level in the universe. Ho ha ho ho, good Saiyan, you can work under me in the future. If the god of destruction heard the demonic laughter of the universe emperor, he would definitely hear it. It was exactly the same as Whis. It seems that the stab of that year still has a big shadow on the heart of the emperor of the universe. Ha ha ha, my Saiyan king is your subordinate. You're not Shilezi. The prince sneered, and then the huge soles of his feet lifted high and stepped on the emperor of the universe. The violent air wave instantly impacted the prince's palace to the ground. The Cosmos Emperor just raised his hand, his index finger stretched out toward the front, and a ray of light instantly crossed the sky. Boom! Roar! After a huge roar, accompanied by a scream, the prince fell to the ground with his bloody right leg. Ho ho ho, Prince Wong, your feet don't seem to be strong enough. While speaking, the Emperor of the Universe flew up from the throne. He smiled coldly at Prince Wong, who was lying on the ground with his right leg completely crippled. But the Cosmic Emperor seemed to have a small stature, but a huge momentum erupted. This momentum made the prince unable to move. Damn, what the hell is going on? The prince was roaring unwillingly, he slammed the ground, and his whole body burst into blue veins, but it was useless. Whoa, do you remember? All right, get up. The Emperor of the Universe smiled slightly, dissipating the terrifying aura from his body. For a moment, the prince's eyes showed a fierce light, but when he remembered that the Emperor of the Universe could not move himself without even moving his hands, he immediately persuaded. After the complexion changed, the prince slowly regained his momentum. You said to let me be your subordinate, so what's the benefit of me? The prince knows that he can't beat the opponent, even if there are more people, it will still be the same. Ho 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 ho, the benefits. There are only a few benefits. With King Frieza, you can enjoy the supreme treatment anywhere in the universe, and the most advanced technological power in the universe. These technologies can make you compete the demihumans leave this small galaxy and go to the wider universe. Quote. Dodoria, who was on the side, saw that the prince's clothes were soft, and quickly introduced it proudly. What? Get out of this galaxy. Dodoria's words made the prince's eyes shine, and the Saiyans just fell into a bottleneck period at this time. Because the speed of technological development is too slow. The expansion of Saiyans has almost stopped within a light-year radius in recent years. With such a small range, the vast universe is nothing like gravel. Haha, not only going out of this galaxy, that is, as long as you are strong in the entire universe, you will knock down the other two universes, and King Frieza will not say anything about you. Dodoria's sneer did not arouse the anger of the prince, on the contrary, he was moved now. Okay, as long as you promise to give us enough technological power, I will be at your disposal on behalf of the Saiyans. The prince said that he dispersed the artificial moon floating in the sky. Ho ho ho, Prince, you will be glad for your decision. Frieza nodded with a big smile. He likes people who know current affairs the most. Back then, he suffered the loss of not being aware of current affairs. Let's go, Mr. Dodoria. By the way, take Mr. Champo with me. Frieza smiled and flew back to his throne, letting him fly towards the starry sky. And as soon as the prince's decision came out, the Saiyans of the entire Prince planet were angry. The group came to the demonstration in the prince's palace under construction. And the prince's words made everyone shut up. Stupid guy, will my Saiyan king succumb to a space pirate? This is an opportunity for my Saiyans, an opportunity to go to the universe, and Frieza, at most, is just a stepping stone. Chapter 46. This thigh is so easy to hold. Since the Saiyan hugged Frieza's thigh, he began to expand rapidly. Of course, at this time, they had already been assigned to the Saiyan troops in Frieza's army. This force quickly spread throughout the universe in just a few years. And it was from this time that the Saiyans started the tradition of sending the newly born lower-level warriors to the deserted planet to fight. On the one hand, more resources can be shared with the new middle-level and upper-level warriors, and on the other hand, the population pressure can be relieved. After all, the current Saiyans are crazy to have children. The more Frieza knew about the Saiyans, the more disdainful he felt towards the Super Saiyans. Maybe it's just a fantasy after the old ancestors were not strong enough to be abused by the Gorilla Saiyan. Frieza's thinking didn't change slightly until a baby was born. In the most advanced nursery room on Prince Planet, Prince Wong anxiously walked around the door of the delivery room. Whoa. Quote. After a baby's cry, a strange-looking alien came out of the delivery room with a little fart child with a tail on its buttocks. Congratulations to the prince, it's the prince. The doctor's words did not make the prince happy, and the prince pressed the combat effectiveness tester above his eyes. DDD, Combat Power 1314. Suddenly, the air in the whole nursery room was quiet. What? 1003, how is this possible? Wang Ziwang held back his excitement and pressed the combat effectiveness tester in front of his eyes again. DDD, Combat Power 1314. Sure enough, Prince Wang took over the Tower of Tragedy from the doctor with ecstasy. In the history of my Saiyans, there is no one with a combat power of 1000 at birth. That's right, my son is definitely the legendary Super Saiyan. Prince Wang laughed, and at this moment he was shaking with excitement. And just when he laughed, the door of the delivery room next door was also opened. An obstetrician came out with a tiny baby with incredibly dense hair. Mr. Bardock, congratulations, it's a son. Patriarchal thinking is present in many places, especially among Saiyan races. Only male Saiyans are real fighters, women are generally just playing soy sauce, and there are few strong ones. Humph, I'll take a look first. Bardock pressed the combat effectiveness tester in his hand with a livid face. Because just now he had heard the prince's laughter. As representatives of the rich, handsome and DOC class, Prince Wang and Bardock dislike each other, but neither of them has the absolute strength to kill each other. And now I can only rely on my son. DDDD, Combat Power, 45 inches. Suddenly, Bardock's face darkened. Hey, this kid doesn't look like you, Bardock, has he been cuckolded? I'll take a look. The prince proudly walked to Bardock's side, looked at Raditz with waist-length hair in the doctor's arms, and immediately laughed. What? Combat Power 45, what a formidable combat power. It's like an elite of lower-level warriors, ha 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 ha. Prince Wang Chunfang laughed proudly, but he didn't care about Bardock, whose face was ashen. Humph, send him to an alien planet to fight, whether he survives depends on his life. After Bardock snorted coldly, he issued an order to the doctor. The prince, on the other hand, sneered as Bardock walked away angrily. A lowly inferior warrior dares to fight me. I really don't know how you have such courage. The prince took a sip and left the nursery with the little prince in his arms. A few years later, the 5-year-old prince's strength reached 5,000. This growth rate finally made Frieza feel a little jealous. But more want to see what the legendary Super Saiyan is. And the Saiyans were very helpful to him in expanding his territory, so he had no idea of destroying the Saiyans. And just one day, two figures that made Frieza's chrysanthemum close together suddenly descended on the Frieza planet. Long time no see Frieza. Still drinking a small wine in the bedroom, Frieza, who was enjoying the scenery, suddenly heard a calm voice. Crack! The wine glass shattered under Frieza's excitement. Frieza turned his head stiffly to the place where the sound came out. I saw two figures that he would never forget in his life appeared in front of him. Lord God of Destruction, why are you here? Frieza's hole contracted violently, and then flew down from the throne. However, when he saw Whis behind the God of Destruction, he took a few steps back without a trace. I'm here to report to you. The God of Destruction glanced at Frieza lightly, and Frieza was so frightened that he said no. Okay, I came to you this time for one thing. I want your help, that is, I don't like the Saiyans recently, so please help me destroy the Prince planet. The God of Destruction didn't talk nonsense either, and directly stated the purpose. Originally, he wanted to wait for Frieza to go by himself, but it seemed that Frieza wanted to use the Saiyans for a few more years. From the analysis of God of Destruction, today is when Kakarot was born. Chapter 47. Kill Frieza's Sacrifice Flag. What? Destroy Prince Planet? The Emperor of the Universe was stunned for a moment. If this is the case, his Super Saiyan development plan will be in vain. I only want the Prince Planet to be destroyed, and what else you want to keep is up to you. The God of Destruction's words made the Emperor of the Universe heave a sigh of relief. How could he just give up before his great cause of death was completed? No problem, I will definitely do things for the god of destruction. I don't know when the god of destruction needs the prince planet to be destroyed. The Emperor of the Universe patted his chest and assured. 3 days. After 3 days, I don't want to see the prince planet again. You should know what to say when someone asks. The god of destruction said calmly, but he didn't want to be regarded as his father's enemy by the prince and the Saiyans in the later period. I know, these wild monkeys are too jumpy. In order to maintain the peace of the universe, I will personally kill them. The Cosmic Emperor's righteous and awe-inspiring appearance makes the god of destruction speechless. This kid's acting skills have been so excellent since childhood. By the way, that Bardock, remember to beat him up. Whis, who was on the side, suddenly remembered something, and hurriedly said to the Emperor of the Universe. No problem, absolutely no problem, ho 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 ho, what the priest says is what he says. The Emperor of the Universe saw that the great god he was most afraid of came to trouble him, and there was no reason to refuse. The two who reached a consensus couldn't help laughing. The god of destruction on the side got goosebumps. Okay, Weiss, don't you have something to do? Hurry up. Under the urging of Weiss swiped the scepter slightly, and the two suddenly turned into a ray of light and disappeared in the Cosmic Emperor's bedroom. After the god of destruction left, the Emperor of the Universe breathed a sigh of relief, but his face was also cold. Use Lao Su as a gun, and one day I will make you pay. The Emperor of the Universe snorted coldly. However, he still had no idea of cultivation. Back then, before his father went to work as a coolie, he instructed him to practice hard and try to save him from the devil in the future. Of course, the Emperor of the Universe will not pay attention to the poor kurd, and will forget to go to Java in the next second. Cultivation is impossible. Cultivation is impossible in this life. If you can't beat him, you have to learn to talk to others to maintain your current life. In the endless starry sky. Sir, god of destruction, why do you want the prince planet to be destroyed? Or do you want the Emperor of the Universe to do it? Weiss asked the god of destruction suspiciously. Ha ha ha, you don't know this. I, as a god of destruction, will not destroy 1,008,000,000 planets in any year. What if a planet has a genius and come to me every day to harass me? What if I have strengths and weaknesses? Wouldn't it be embarrassing if you were strong? The word of the god of destruction is of course fart. The limit of this universe is the god of destruction. It is already difficult to reach the realm of God, let alone the god of destruction. And the god of destruction is the strongest among the gods of destruction. His current strength is second only to the great priest. No matter how many geniuses come, they are all hanging and beating. Ho 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 ho, the god of destruction is really good at joking. Where did Wes not know that god of destruction was just prevaricates himself? But he didn't care. After all, the character of the angel decided that he would not fight for more. Okay, let's get to the point. Is your little fangirl coming back to life? The god of destruction then remembered Florence, where Wis was so devastated. Ho ho ho, of course, I've been working hard for 1,000 years to recast his soul. When she is resurrected, she must cook for me every day. The god of destruction was taken aback by Weiss' words. Cooking. Could it be that she made all the delicious food I ate when I retreated? The god of destruction widened his eyes. Of course, how do you think I've trained people in the 30 years you've been here? The smug look of Wis made the god of destruction almost punch him again. Stop talking nonsense, even if it is really resurrected, we have to wait until the prince planet is destroyed. By the way, this 1,000 years have passed, and the new generation of legendary Super Saiyans have also come out. Are you giving your little one? Fan may get a brother or sister. God of Destruction felt excited when he thought of Brawly in women's clothing. Ah, why didn't I think of it? It's a good idea. Whis' eyes lit up, and thoughts of harming the good youth took shape in his mind. Okay, stop imagining, you see the Emperor of the Universe is here. At this moment, a large number of troops have slowly surrounded the entire Prince planet. And the prince looked at the army in the sky and trembled with anger. Damn, what is the Emperor of the Universe doing? Do you want us to break up? The prince's words aroused the unanimous approval of the senior officials of the Saiyan planet. Prince King, I think the time has come for my Saiyans to dominate the universe. The Emperor of the Universe can be thrown away after using it. Yes, the Emperor of the Universe is too deceiving. This time we will destroy his fleet to see if he is still arrogant. Don't say it's a fleet, even the Emperor of the Universe will be killed. Seeing the high level of enthusiasm among his subordinates, he suddenly didn't know what his surname was. Yoshi, today we are going to kill the Cosmic Emperor Sacrificial Flag. Chapter 48, The Chapter of Bardock. The Emperor of the Universe. In the endless starry sky, in the round spaceship, the prince screamed and died tragically in the spaceship of the Cosmic Emperor. Just a few minutes ago, the prince, who had a fever and forgot his surname, rushed into the palace of the Emperor of the Universe with his minions. The king who intends to assassinate us, of course, in such a small space, the ending can be imagined. Cut, you didn't kill me when you turned into a gorilla, but now you want to kill me with your body. The Emperor of the Universe sneered disdainfully. In another room where the Universe Emperor killed the prince, a young Saiyan was locked on the wall. This person is the prince who was taken hostage by the Emperor of the Universe not long ago. At this time, the prince's mind was responding to what his father said to him before sending him here. Prince, you are the prince of the Saiyans, and you have to take some responsibilities. This time I sent you to the Emperor of the Universe, in fact, to keep the last trace of fire. Don't be angry when you find out that the Prince planet has been destroyed, because the Prince planets are not as important as you alone. As long as you live, the Emperor of the Universe will eventually be killed. Prince Wang's firm face was always turning over in the prince's heart, but there was no superfluous expression on the prince's face. Squeaky. Suddenly, a mouse saw the locked prince and wanted to come over and bite. Suddenly, a silvery white light flashed. Boom. After the roar, only one roasted mouse remained. Beyond your own power. The prince's disdainful expression didn't know whether he was referring to the dead mouse or the prince who gave the head next door. Everything is in the prince's plan. Using the destruction of Prince Planet to save his son's life is a big gamble, but as long as he wins, in his eyes, it is a bloody profit. Even if you lose, so what? Saiyans never give up. Ho ho ho, I was still thinking, what should I do if the prince and the king beg me for mercy? I didn't expect this kid to come to the door by himself. The Emperor of the Universe smiled and said to Shangbo, who had just killed the prince and avenged his revenge. What the King of the Universe said is very true, but these Saiyans are really stupid. They didn't even understand the difference in strength and came up to offend the Lord of the Universe. Before Chambo spoke, Dodoria, who was on the side, spoke first. And the joke he thought was funny did not resonate with Dodoria and Chambo, and only disdainful eyes greeted him. Ho ho ho, since the prince made this bet with the Prince Planet, how could we let him lose? Well, let's go and enjoy the most beautiful fireworks. The King of the Universe is of course the way of the King of the Universe. The King of the Universe knows his own strength. Such poor acting skills are not even a trick in front of the King of the Universe. Then the Emperor of the Universe took Chambo Doria and flew out of the starry sky. Chambord and Dodoria have a glass cover on their heads. The Emperor of the Universe is naked in the starry sky. The fireworks from the explosion of the planet are very beautiful. Ho ha ho ha ho. Quote. Under the sound of demonic laughter, a fiery red ball of light emerged from the fingertips of the Emperor of the Universe. At the same time, on the Prince Planet, Bardock, who was punched by the magic demon, witnessed the destruction of the Prince Planet in his hallucinations, and he was mocked after intending to remind everyone of this. He hurried to the nursery. A child with a tail with an explosive head like Bardock was still sleeping in the nursery. Kakarot, remember, you are my son of Bardock, now and forever. There was a smile on the corner of Bardock's mouth, and then he immediately cooled down. Send him to the Earth at this coordinate. This planet does not have much strength and is far away. In normal times, the doctor would definitely think that Bardock had given up on Kakarot. But looking at the army in the sky, the doctor also knew that there was no escape, and after a while of operation, this small spaceship representing hope rushed into the sky. And Bardock rushed forward. Go to hell, you rubbish! Bardock roared and knocked down the flying spaceships one by one. Countless Cosmic Emperor legions were bombarded by Bardock. One after another devastating attack will be wiped out as long as it is wiped a little. Countless dead people and their stumps fell to the ground from the roar of the sky. And his actions were also noticed by the Emperor of the Universe. Yo, this monkey with stuffed teeth is not bad, it's so powerful. Dodoria sneered and clicked the combat effectiveness tester above his eyes. DDDD, combat power, 19,000 inches. Chapter 49, Planet Vegeta is destroyed. Bardock's combat power has already surpassed that of the Prince and King, but it is useless against the Emperor of the Universe and Chambord. King Frieza, go and teach him a lesson. Dodoria grinned and was about to go up to take the lead. No, Mr. Dodoria, this time I'll do it myself. The moment the Emperor of the Universe saw Bardock's appearance, his pupils shrank slightly. The words of the Cosmic Emperor made Chambodoria's complexion change. The Emperor of the Universe actually wants to take action himself. Is this person so powerful? The two looked at each other suspiciously. At this time, the Cosmic Emperor has broken through the atmosphere, turned into a fireball, and rushed towards Bardock, who was fighting in the stratosphere with countless Cosmic Emperor legions. Bardock, who was still fighting, suddenly felt a chill. Bardock turned his head quickly, and saw a three-toed soul at a glance. In an instant, Bardock felt the sole of his face stepping on it. Under the terrifying force, Bardock crashed toward the ground like a missile. Boom! With an earth-shattering loud noise, the Prince planet was smashed into a crater that was several miles deep and several kilometers in diameter. After the endless dust dissipated, the Emperor of the Universe stepped on Bardock, whose face had been deformed, with a grinning smile on his face. You are Bardock. You should be thankful that you were entrusted with beating you up before you died. The Emperor of the Universe spat in disdain. Of course, at this time, Bardock no longer had the strength to speak, and he had already used up his energy after fighting for so long. Moreover, being smashed down by the Emperor of the Universe from a height of tens of thousands of meters, it is already very lucky not to die. Of course, the Emperor of the Universe will not pity Bardock, who will pity him if he has pity on others. The Emperor of the Universe slowly raised his legs. Boom boom boom. His legs turned into a phantom, and the thick soles of the phantom trampled Bardock mercilessly. PFF'd. A big mouthful of blood spit out from Bardock's mouth. It wasn't until a few minutes later, looking at Bardock, who was about to die, that the Emperor of the Universe raised his feet in disdain. If it wasn't for the promise of maiming you and destroying you with this planet, you'd be dead. The Emperor of the Universe smiled slightly, then flew into the air. Every now and then, it comes out of the atmosphere. The wild monkeys that like to jump off, it's good, it saves me spending time all day watching whether these wild monkeys will rebel. The Emperor of the Universe sneered, and then his fingers rose slightly, and then a ball of light instantly appeared in his hand. Ho 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 ho, go to hell, wild monkeys. The huge ball of light swooped down towards the ground like a small sun. The ball of light was submerged in the earth in an instant. At the same time, a spherical aircraft flew out from the ground, rubbing the side of the Emperor of the Universe and flew towards the universe. Ho ho ho, it's actually Bardock's son. I just don't know if this kid will be better than his father. The Emperor of the Universe looked at the flying spaceship with cold eyes and did not destroy it. Boom. After a huge roar, the Prince planet turned into dust in the universe. A green ball of light escaped from the planet in an instant, and flew towards the universe. Ha ha ha, the Emperor of the Universe, the Saiyans are extinct this time. Dodoria, laughing wildly, flew in front of the Emperor of the Universe. No, there are still many Saiyans who have survived in the universe, the King of the Universe, do we want it? Mr. Chambo made a gesture of wiping his neck. No no no, we are good citizens in the universe, how could we do such a thing? In addition, the Saiyans are not necessarily useless. The Emperor of the Universe smiled inscrutable, his purpose is of course to train a Super Saiyan to play. At that time, he can tell the younger generation that the legend of the Super Saiyan who has made the frozen demons fear for thousands of years is a joke in his eyes. And no one knows what the Emperor of the Universe has done. In the endless starry sky, Whis was holding a Saiyan kid in his hand, and the kid looked at the god of destruction with melancholy eyes. Weiss, are you saying this kid is too sentimental? The god of destruction looked at Brawly with the tail in Whis' hand, sweating slightly. Who knows, this kid is probably too troubled. You don't even have to drink milk, and the family just born is gone. Can you not worry about it? Weiss rubbed his chin and looked at it. Alas, it's a pity. Weiss shook his head helplessly. Why, this kid has no potential to be a pseudo-girl. The god of destruction rolled his eyes at Weiss. Ho ho ho, the god of destruction guessed right, this kid is still too rough to dress up, and he has no potential. If Brawly understood what Weiss said, he would definitely yell at him. I'm a real man, Brawly, who the fuck is going to be a fake mother? But at this time, Brawly was just using his tail to make a swing, and he kept wagging and laughing. No potential, then let him fend for himself. The god of destruction took Brawly, aimed at his little butt, and kicked it. Immediately, the energy in Brawly detected the danger and automatically emerged and turned into a ball of light to protect Brawly. Brawly, like a ball, flew like a star in the sky when the god of destruction deliberately used ingenuity. It's time to ask for flowers again in the day, I hope you can give me more flowers. Chapter 50, Time and Space Teleportation. After tossing Brawly away, the god of destruction slowly turned solemn as he watched the just-destroyed Prince planet. Weiss, do you feel it? The god of destruction shook his head helplessly. The reason why he had such a leisurely interest was to see if the person who sent Bardock into the Millennium would take action. Unfortunately, with his strength, he didn't see how Bardock disappeared. Master Destruction, I found Mr. Bardock in the underworld, and he seems to be dead. The god of destruction frowned at Wes' smiling words. Dead, that means Bardock didn't cross. The god of destruction sat cross-legged on the ground, frowning and analyzing. If Bardock died, who was Bardock from 1,000 years ago? Could it be Bardock from other parallel worlds? The god of destruction remembered the setting of the light in the space-time ring in the original book. No, this Bardock and the Bardock I feel are definitely the same person. Even the parallel world soul is not the same, there must be something wrong. The god of destruction thought of this and slowly stood up. Suddenly, he stretched out a finger. Immediately, his fingertips moved slightly into the void. A burst of blue-purple light instantly enveloped Wes and him inside. Yo, time and space energy, does the god of destruction want to go back in time? Weiss looked surprised at the time and space power surrounding him, slightly surprised. It has been an hour since Bardock died. Does god of destruction want to go back to that time? Sure enough, in Wiss's conjecture, the surrounding time began to pass rapidly, and I saw a green light ball flying back not far away, and then the light ball turned into a child. Everything is so natural. As time goes by, the broken flying sand and rocks in the starry sky also gather together in an instant. Everything was restored to before the destruction of the Prince planet. Ho 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 ho, Bardock, become a smoke with the Prince planet. The Emperor of the Universe stood in the starry sky and laughed and sent out the ball of light at the tip of his finger. Damn it, the Emperor of the Universe. Bardock, who struggled to get up from the ground, looked unwillingly at the huge ball of light shot down from the starry sky. Countless people from the Cosmic Emperor Legion, as well as the Saiyans, were stunned. With the submersion of the light ball, the entire Prince planet instantly turned into a light ball, then exploded and disappeared into the universe. No, what the hell is going on? The god of destruction stood at the center of the explosion with a cold face and said suspiciously. Unwilling, he once again used the time and space energy to wrap Whis and himself in it. Master God of Destruction, why are you so impatient? Isn't that someone who accidentally traveled through 1,000 years? Didn't they all die? Weiss urged the God of Destruction bitterly. Stop giving me nonsense, don't you just remember to go back and put on the mask? What kind of mask are you wearing as an old man? The God of Destruction cursed angrily, and then disappeared from the resentful Whis. Time and space returned to the moment when the ball of light was smashed into the sky. Damn it, the Emperor of the Universe. Boom. Planet destruction. Back in time again. Time and time again, the God of Destruction broke out in cold sweat, but every time the result was the same. Is the direction wrong? Or is it because I'm here that I don't dare to come? It's also because my current strength is more than 1,000 times stronger than 1,000 years ago. The other party must not dare to come. Destroy God's narcissistic thoughts. But at this moment, his expression suddenly changed. I am 1,000 times stronger now than I was 1,000 years ago. This message suddenly appeared in the mind of God of Destruction. Ha ha ha, so that's how it is. I can do such a boring thing. God of Destruction laughed evilly. Wes, where did you die? The God of Destruction suddenly shouted to Whis in the starry sky. A few seconds later, Whis came to the God of Destruction like a ray of light. There is still a large skewer of meat in his mouth, and there is still a pile of delicious food in the scepter. You fucking know how to eat, don't you see that Lao Tzu is busy now? The God of Destruction snatched the delicious food from Wiss's hand, and also transferred all the edible food from his scepter to his ring, leaving nothing for Whis. You. Weiss was still stunned at first, but after a few minutes, his face all turned black. What are you? I need to replenish your physical strength, you go find something more. Under the urging of the God of Destruction, Weiss could only leave the ruins in resentment and go to other planets for food. After 10 hours of hard work in Wes, the God of Destruction finally filled his stomach. You look good on me, this time I'm going to play a little bigger. God of Destruction laughed evilly. Boom. Suddenly, infinite destructive energy burst out from the body of the God of Destruction, and the sky-high purple light dyed the entire starry sky red. All living beings in the universe could not help but kneel down. Temple of all kings. Such a powerful breath. The Grand Priest frowned, and seemed to sense that you were dignified. Wow, God of Destruction is so powerful that he trembled to destroy the seventh universe. Xiaochuan Wang said with a happy smile. What Lord Quanwang said is very true, but the God of Destruction cannot destroy the universe. Chapter 51. The Gate of Time and Space, a journey that spans thousands of years. Obviously, the strength of the God of Destruction has reached the point where even the great priests have to take it seriously. I don't know if the God of Destruction has become more powerful and the speed of making Peppa Pig will be faster. I have been waiting for the third episode for 1,000 years. King Quan's depressed words made the Grand Priest smile helplessly. Of course he knew that the God of Destruction was fooling King Quan, but he couldn't say it. After all, King Quan didn't ask if he was wrong. Old ancestor, is the God of Destruction so powerful? Then I've been cultivating for 1,000 years, isn't it useless? God Jabbit knelt on the ground and shivered, looking at the God of Destruction who exuded terrifying power from the crystal ball in the hands of the old Kaiwang God with a look of disbelief. On the other hand, the old Kaiwang God looked at the God Jeb in front of him with disappointment. Hey, the mud can't support the wall. After practicing for 1,000 years, not only did I not have the dick that I cultivated, but the original strength has dropped a lot. I really don't know how the core tree gave birth to this realm god. The figure of the Western King God flashed in the mind of the old King Kai, who had already despaired of the God of Jabe. Layla has enough talent and temperament, but the last time seems to have hit her too much. I don't know if it can be eased this time. At this time, the seventh universe slowly calmed down after shaking for a few minutes. The arrogance on the god of destruction who turned into a purple ball of light slowly turned green. Oh my god, the god of destruction actually possesses such a powerful space-time energy, but what is the god of destruction going to do? Whis was surprised to see the time and space energy in the god of destruction that was hundreds of times stronger than himself. The little cat that was playing under his hands had grown up. Well, how awesome is it? You'll know what I'm going to do right away. The god of destruction laughed evilly, and then waved his hand. Boom! A space-time crack suddenly appeared in the starry sky. The god of destruction waved his hand and grabbed a figure from inside. Did Bardock catch this time period more than an hour ago? What is the god of destruction trying to do? Whis looked at the unconscious Bardock with disgust and asked the god of destruction. Look at it. The god of destruction smiled slightly, and then pressed his right hand on Bardock's head, erasing all the memories of himself and Wes in Bardock's mind in an instant. At the same time, all his origins are sealed. After doing all this, Whis seemed to have guessed what the god of destruction was going to do. What? It turned out to be like this. No wonder my father looked at me and smiled strangely after searching for Bardock's memory. And as soon as Weiss' voice fell, the god of destruction clenched his fist in his right hand, and all the time and space energy in his body emerged onto the fist of his right hand. The gate of time and space. Open. God of destruction suddenly punched. Boom. After a muffled sound, the space-time crack that was originally just a small opening shattered into a huge opening. Countless violent energies vented out, and the energy hit any star, and these planets either began to collapse, or they were reborn and turned green. Crack. Suddenly, a huge portal was propped up in the cracks of the starry sky, blocking countless space-time cracks inside, without a trace of venting. Hey, it's done, Bardock, go back to your king's life. The god of destruction glanced at the gate of time and space that he had created with satisfaction, and immediately picked up Bardock and threw it into the gate of time and space with a flick of his hand. Boom! The gate of time and space slowly closed, and then disappeared into the starry sky. The god of destruction also showed a trace of tiredness on his face. Ho 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 ho, god of destruction, why are you tired like a dead dog? It's been a long time since I saw you like this. Weiss came to the god of destruction with a mocking expression on his face. Damn, are you bothered? Do you think it's easy to send someone back 1,000 years ago? Try it. The god of destruction cursed at Weiss. Although sending people back to the past does not consume power, but before sending it 1,000 years ago, even a great priest would have to spend a lot of power to do it. Oh, the Loon family can't do it. Since the god of destruction can go home and rest, I don't think you can hold it anymore. After that, Weiss was about to leave. Wait, take me to this place. Hide my identity when I get there, I'll rest there for a while. The god of destruction fell asleep after speaking. Oops, god of destruction is true, he sleeps when he says he sleeps, and he doesn't even brush his teeth. Weiss reluctantly set up the red light, then turned into a ray of light, and flew towards the planet that the god of destruction had promised before he fell asleep. Earth. Western capital. In an ordinary small building, Weiss was staring at a small ball of light in front of him in a daze. Crack. Suddenly, after a cracking sound, the ball of light split directly. A little girl emerges from within. Ho 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 ho, finally came out. After 1,000 years you finally woke up. Weiss smiled and looked at the little Lolita, who was only 4 or 5 years old. Sister Weiss, how did you get so big? Florence, who had just woken up, was still confused and couldn't understand the situation. Under the introduction of Weiss, Florence accepted the fact that she had become a child. Chapter 52. Are you a woman? At the entrance of Exedu No. 1 kindergarten, a blue-haired little girl was jumping up and down happily, and at the same time, she kept humming a nursery rhyme. Behind him, a middle-aged and elderly man with a white beard and a white coat smiled and reminded the little girl to be careful while smoking a cigarette butt. I found a penny on the side of the road and gave it to the police uncle. Uncle. Suddenly, she stopped when she just came to the door. Baba, look at that young lady over there, is so pretty. Suddenly, the little girl pointed at the gate of the kindergarten and shouted at Weiss, who brought a little girl into the kindergarten. Well, yes, Abu saw eat everything. Cliff smiled perfunctorily at Abu. A little kid knows what is beautiful or not. Feeling perfunctory, Abu ran into the school angrily. After Abu came to school, he realized that he had one more classmate from today, and he was still at the same table. What makes Abu most happy is that the meals he brings every day are delicious that he has never eaten before. And it was actually made by the same table. It can be said that the 2 years in kindergarten were the happiest 2 years after Abu was born, and of course the most was because of the delicious food. Another part of the reason is that Abu's IQ far exceeds that of his peers. In kindergarten, only Florence can communicate with her well and say things she doesn't know. Finally, the good days are over. After the kindergarten, the two schools separated. Abu looked at the food in her lunchbox, although it looked good, but the taste was a mess. She looked around at the classmates who were yelling and picking their noses while eating, and finally she decided. She is changing schools. After using Brive's strong interpersonal relationship, Abu found his good friend, Florence, and eventually the two got together again. Time passed slowly, and 10 years passed in a blink of an eye. On this day, the god of destruction, who had just regained his strength, suddenly felt that someone was pulling his ears. And also vaguely heard that someone wanted to hug him. Wow, Xiaolun's family still has a big cat. But it's so heavy, how does Xiaolun usually move it? The giant tugging finally woke the god of destruction. Mummy, why are you pulling my ears early in the morning? The god of destruction opened his hazy eyes and cursed loudly. And just wanted to hug the god of destruction, Abu was taken aback. Mummy, this cat has become a sperm. Xiaolun, Sister Weiss, your cat has spoken. God of destruction. Looking at Abu yelling and running out, the god of destruction was speechless. Isn't it normal for animals to speak in this Dragon Ball world? No, I'm the god of destruction. How could it be a creature like Meow that only eats, sleeps, and eats? The god of destruction shook his head, then changed into his god of destruction suit. He walked out of the room with haste. Ho, god of destruction, you finally woke up, but you miss the dead family. As soon as he went out, the god of destruction was hugged by Weiss, who was guarding the door. Weiss also wanted to wipe his oily and powdered face towards the god of destruction. Damn, you are eating shit. The god of destruction felt a chill, and then quickly pushed his hand, which escaped the clutches of Weiss. Immediately, Weiss' face turned bitter. God of destruction, you have changed again, you. Stop, if you do this again, I'll really take action. The god of destruction turned black and hurriedly threatened. Sure enough, Weiss stopped chattering when he heard the god of destruction's intimidation. Wow, Xiaolun, your cat is so fierce, look at women. At this moment, Abu, who was hiding and did not dare to come out, hurriedly said to Florence who was beside him. What, you said they were women? The god of destruction was immediately stunned. You won't look at it, such a beautiful young lady is of course a woman. Abu glanced at the god of destruction with contempt. At this time, the god of destruction took a closer look at Weiss and Florence. My day, I overdid you too. The god of destruction looked at the two Weiss and Florence, who were wearing dresses, with their hair thrown back and light makeup on their faces. Women's clothing bosses are always women's clothing bosses. You're a chicken, and you're still so beautiful after dressing up. The god of destruction couldn't help but feel the chills, and he mixed with these two every day. If he was infected as a pseudo-mother that day, it would not be worth the loss. No, we have to find someone for the two of them to marry, or I will be the one who will be unlucky sooner or later. The god of destruction, who had made up his mind, gave an evil laugh. The god of destruction is laughing so wickedly, he doesn't care about obscenity, he hates it to death, oh ho ho ho. Whis' magical smile gave Abu, who was hiding, goosebumps. Just you two old men. I think you are afraid of corns. When the disdainful voice of the god of destruction reached the ears of the three, the expressions of the three of them suddenly changed. Especially Abu, because she has been with Florence since she was a child, and she often has a bigger butt than anyone with bigger breasts. Florence, who has no breasts at all, has been laughed at by Abu since she was a child. You, Shaolun, are you male? Abu finally reacted, pointing to Florence and asking in disbelief. Chapter 53, Call me Beerus-sama. Hey, it looks like I'm in trouble. The god of destruction looked at the wonderful faces of the three, and immediately smiled happily. Master god of destruction, you are too good at speaking. Although I am a man, I think I must have just given the wrong child. When I have time, I will definitely settle the account with the old man of the King of Hell. Florence looked angry. Of course, this anger was directed at Hades. I'm rubbing it. Why did you choose the wrong child? You kid is with the wrong person. The god of destruction wiped a cold sweat and observed a 30-second silence for Hades. Just at this time, Whis, whose face changed slightly, suddenly took out a scepter that he had not used for many years from the void. Is this magic? Abu stared at Wes in disbelief with wide eyes. She had seen Wes many times, but the appearance of the god of destruction today instantly changed her three views. Amnestic. Weiss glared at the god of destruction, and then tapped Abu on the head with his scepter. Boom. With the crisp voice, a scream came. Ah, it hurts, who is beating my head? Abu held his head and looked at the people around him with tears in his eyes. It's all right, Abu, you just accidentally hit your head on the table, you forgot. It's not stupid, right? Ha ha ha. Florence covered her mouth mockingly and said to Abu. You're stupid, I'm fine, hey. This big cat is so cute, is it your pet? Abu was washed away by the words of destruction god just now by Whis, and he only remembered that he had just arrived at the Florence house. The god of destruction was stunned for a moment when he heard that the girl was Abu, but when he heard the latter sentence, it exploded. What? I'm a pet. You are the pet. Your whole family is a pet. Let me tell you, I am the suave god of destruction. The god of destruction put his hands on his hips arrogantly, puffing out his scrawny chest. Ha ha ha, this cat is so funny, it can talk. Abu didn't have the initial fear. He just ran over quickly and filled up a large number of strangely dressed gods of destruction. What are you looking at? Go and walk away. You have to pay to see Lao Su. He waved his hand like chasing flies and told Abu to stay away from him. Then the god of destruction walked over to the refrigerator and started looking for food. Oh, this cat is really not cute. Abu sighed helplessly. By the way, Abu, what are you doing with me? Florence, who was on the side, saw that the god of destruction was not angry, wiped a cold sweat, and quickly changed the subject, for fear that Abu would anger the god of destruction again. Oh, by the way, I almost forgot. This time I came to see you on a big business. Look at this. With that said, Abu took out a book from his small bag, turned to one of the pages, and handed it to Wes and Florence. The god of destruction, with his mouth full of chicken legs, looked over his head curiously. And it records the news of Dragon Ball. A long time ago, a god made 7 Dragon Balls and spread them to the world to save mankind in crisis. After mankind has survived the crisis, Dragon Balls have been used by many people as a blessing. For this reason, God will Dragon Balls have spread to all parts of the universe. As long as you collect all 7 Dragon Balls, you can summon Shenlong, and Shenlong will help you realize any wish. Quote. Abu looks imaginatively looking forward to the day when he finds the Dragon Ball and gets the real Son of Heaven. Che, that's all, do you need to look for it? I'm not interested. God of Destruction arrogantly hissed and ate. Having said that, he can achieve almost everything that Dragon Ball can achieve now, whether it is resurrecting people or what. Of course, he would still be interested in Super Dragon Ball, but if he remembered that there were even Super 4 in this world, there would definitely be evil dragons. When the evil dragon of the earth comes out, it will be nothing. Accidentally, the super dragon has been turned into a super evil dragon, let alone yourself, even the king of the whole is not necessarily an opponent. Ho ha ho, the god of destruction doesn't seem to like anything. What I like most is to cultivate and eat delicious food. It seems that this Dragon Ball is really useless to you. Weiss smiled helplessly. Hey, you all call me Meow Mistress God of Destruction. Do you have an honorary title at this time? Abu wondered that a cat was actually called an adult. Ah, Abu, you don't need to ask this, you can call him this in the future. Florence wiped her cold sweat, for fear that the god of destruction would be angry. Fortunately, the god of destruction didn't bother to care whether a little girl respected him or not. Oh, okay, but the purpose of my visit today is to ask you to accompany me to find Dragon Ball. If you have any wishes, you can say it first. Abu's generous appearance moved Florence slightly, because he knew that Abu was serious. Ho ha ho, Shaolun, you have made a good friend. Weiss touched Florence's little head with relief, and the two of them looked so beautiful as good sisters. PFF'd. The god of destruction couldn't help but squirted the chicken legs out of his mouth and sprayed Weiss directly. Sir, god of destruction, what are you doing? I hate it. Weiss looked at the god of destruction with a resentful look on his face. Ah, mistakes, a little emotional. It's on the shelves, and the salted fish is on the shelves. After that, the plot will return to the main line. Everyone knows that there is not much practice to write, so we return to the original funny line, the character design will not collapse, and you can read it with confidence. If it's on the shelf, ask for a subscription. There is also automatic subscription, which is also very important. If you like it, please support Shanyu. Shanyu is very grateful here. Chapter 54. Bardock, you are still alive. Really, God of Destruction is so annoying, huh? In fact, Weiss didn't care if he vomited all over his body, and it was a big deal to change his clothes. But the most important thing was his makeup, which was unbearable. Hey, can't help it. The God of Destruction smiled awkwardly. HMPH, ignore you. Weiss rolled his eyes at the God of Destruction again, and then said to Abu and the two. Okay, if you want to find Dragon Ball, go ahead, but if you wish, you can discuss it later. The important thing is that you know the process. Florence, who agreed with Weiss, nodded. He didn't know what Weiss meant. Hey, by the way, can we bring the big cat? I think if he is alone at home with Sister Weiss, I think Sister Weiss will be bullied. At this moment, Abu's words came. When the God of Destruction heard this, his face suddenly turned dark. I'm bullying Weiss. You still need to think about it. That's for sure, but isn't it too disrespectful for me to say it like that? The God of Destruction complained to Abu, which immediately made Abu smile awkwardly. Meow mi, you're too direct, you can't even cover it up. When Abu heard the words of the God of Destruction, he decided even more that he must let the God of Destruction follow him, otherwise the weak Sister Weiss would be too pitiful. I still use cover up. But you said let me follow. This is absolutely impossible. My hobby is to bask in the sun every day, tease Weiss and the others, and then eat delicious food. You let me and you go to the wind sun exposure. Don't even think about it. Quote. The God of Destruction, who was an old otaku in his previous life, would never walk out of his kennel. Ho ha ho, God of Destruction, you may be disappointed this time. Your work has not been done for a long time. You either go to work, or I will go to work for you. Just change your makeup, and you are the only one people eat instant noodles at home, because Florence is the one who can cook, and he has nothing to eat when he leaves. Quote. Wei's mean smile instantly made the god of destruction look ugly. Where's Curd? Where did this kid die? God of destruction asked with a dark face, is Curd being lazy? Ho ho ho, of course this kid doesn't dare to be lazy, but just last year, Curd accidentally met that kid Brawly and was beaten to death. If it's better, it will take decades. The most important thing is this. No one can stop me once I go to buy cosmetics. Quote. Whis' words made the god of destruction vomit blood, and there is actually such an operation. You're a chicken, you're going to eat me. Go, go, don't you just look for Dragon Ball. Anyway, if you are idle, you are idle. The god of destruction took a sip, then took 8 character steps and walked out towards the gate step by step. Hey, hey, big cat, you can leave as you like, don't you bring anything. Abu shook his head speechlessly as he watched the bachelor of the god of destruction take him out and set off alone. Bring something. I still use it. I can get you anything you want. Let's go, don't waste your time. The god of destruction opened the door and walked out. Let's go too, don't let the god of destruction wait too long. Otherwise, something big will happen. Florence smiled helplessly, then took the bewildered Abu's hand and ran outside. The 3 of them scribbled into the journey to find Dragon Ball vacation. Abu's family originally had a Dragon Ball, so he thought that Dragon Ball really existed, so he embarked on the journey. Their first stop was a valley in the north, just over 100 kilometers away from Exedu. Only on the first day, they came to the valley. Hey, birds don't shit here, how can there be Dragon Balls? For the first time, Miss Abu walked so far out of the house, looking at the dust and garbage everywhere in the valley, her face suddenly turned ugly. Yeah. Just as Abu had just finished speaking, a crow screamed across his head. Bah! Suddenly, Abu felt something fell on his head and quickly grabbed it with his hands. Ah, it's bird shit. A few hours later, Abu, who had just washed his hair, drove his car on the road angrily. It's abominable, dead crow, just pooped on me. Abu drove again and again while two held a small roast chicken and nibbled hard. You've eaten all the special meows, you're still not angry, just bear with it. The god of destruction looked at the crow that was still being gnawed with only bones and a shred of flesh left, and couldn't help but mourn for a few seconds of silence for it. Under Abu's resentment, the 3 set off again. The god of destruction sat in the co-pilot, opened the window and looked at the scenery outside the window, and couldn't help falling into contemplation. It feels like a previous life, but if it's not, it's always not. No matter how similar it is, it's still not. The strangeness in the eyebrows of the god of destruction made Abu beside him puzzled for a while. Meow am I, don't you miss Sister Weiss? Did you adopt her and grow up? Abu asked suspiciously while driving. The god of destruction was taken aback by her words. Ha ha ha, you really guessed it right. I think I was really raised by Weiss. The god of destruction smiled helplessly. From the memory, the god of destruction saw all the memories from his birth to the time he passed through. And the first person I saw when I opened my eyes was Wes, and even Shumpa only saw his own brother during his first god of destruction meeting. At that time, the god of destruction was relatively thin, and Shumpa robbed his beloved lollipop. So in general, Whis can be said to be the closest person to the god of destruction in this world. No matter what the other party's purpose is, or what orders are given by the great priest or the king, there is no doubt about that. I can't believe that the god of destruction would say such a thing by himself. I wonder if Sister Weiss will be very happy to hear it. Florence also just found out about it. That's right, Sister Weiss is so hospitable to you, and you still bully her, it's really bad. The words of Abu and Florence made the god of destruction roll his eyes. Where did you see that I was bullying Wes? I'm very good to Wes. If you talk nonsense again, be careful, I will sue you for slander. Of course the god of destruction could not admit it. Of course, the 2 of them just responded with blank eyes. The time was spent in the chat of several people. And the god of destruction, who has been cultivating, sleeping, and working since he came to this world, has not been so relaxed for a long time. After all, there was always a gap between himself and Weiss because of the defensive mentality of the god of destruction. It seems that I can relax a lot in the future, and there may be some unexpected gains. With such thoughts in mind, the three continued to drive on the road. A week later. At the foot of a mountain that looked like a steamed bun, Abu smiled happily as he looked at the Dragon Ball mark that was only a few hundred meters away from him on the Dragon Ball radar. Wow Kaka, we found the third one so quickly, and we can summon the Dragon Ball with 4 more, so I can get the handsome guy, a lot of handsome guys. Abu thought about it and saliva came out. Monster, let go of my grandpa. No, get out of the way. At this moment, a young voice spoke to Abu, who was laughing wildly in the car. The god of destruction, who was still taking a nap, opened his eyes a little, and at a glance, he saw a miniature version of Bardock carrying a big fish standing not far away and pointing at his car with a little fear. Is this Sun Wukong? He really looks like Bardock. Bardock, you are still alive. At this moment, a furious voice came from the seat behind the car. Chapter 55. Is this cat delicious? First order. Bardock. What? Can I eat it? Xiao Wukong dropped the big fish he was holding, scratched his head, and asked suspiciously. Boom. Suddenly, Xiao Wukong's eyes flashed, and a fist the size of a casserole had appeared in front of his eyes. In an instant, Xiao Wukong was so frightened that he took a step back. Well, you've got the wrong person, he's not Bardock. A faint voice reached Xiao Wukong's ears, and Xiao Wukong, who was so frightened that he was about to fight back, hurriedly looked towards the source of the sound. I saw a beautiful human being bigger than him looking at him angrily at this time, and the hideous expression made Xiao Wukong kicked an uneasy in his heart. At this moment, a purple cat came over, grabbed Florence's hand, and let him put it down. Wow, big cat, it looks delicious. Of course, the foodie Wukong didn't know what Tong Yan Wuji was, so he directly said something that he regretted. Immediately, the god of destruction's face darkened. This kid is Bardock's son, fight him, don't kill him. Immediately, the god of destruction laughed evilly, then turned around and walked directly into the car and started humming a song. And Florence didn't hesitate for a second, and when Wukong licked his mouth, he began to bombard. Ah, hit someone, damn, I want revenge, don't slap in the face, ah. I was wrong, don't pull your tail. Grandpa, help, I'm dying. The god of destruction above the car listened to the screams of Xiao Wukong, and his heart was extraordinarily comfortable. Oh common people today, I'm so happy. Abu, on the side, looked at Xiao Wukong, who was abused to the point of death, and silently mourned in his heart. In the past few days of getting along, she already knew that the cat next to her had a lot of background, because one day they saw a super large Tyrannosaurus Rex. When he thought that several of his people were dead, the god of destruction took it easy. The oversized Tyrannosaurus Rex screamed and turned into ashes. Lord God of Destruction, this child seems to be dying, can you please stop Shaolun? Looking at the little Wukong who had already rushed to the street, Abu was also afraid of dying, and she had never seen her friend when she was so violent, and she felt a little guilty in her heart. Enla, Shaolun is measured. The god of destruction lifted his eyelids, glanced slightly, and then closed his eyes again. And after Abu heard it, 10,000 Sao Naima were boiling in his heart. Oh my god, do you think this is proportionate? Look at Shaolun's sense of proportion, how can the ground crack with proportions, and how can this child vomit blood with proportions? But just when Abu thought that Xiao Wukong was finished, Xiao Wukong, who was lying still on the ground, suddenly clenched his fists. Under Florence's surprised gaze, Xiao Wukong rose into the air and punched Florence on the cheek. Crack! A crisp sound caused the god of destruction, who had closed his eyes, to frown slightly, and then stretched out again. Interesting, it turned out to be testing the other party. It seems that you should generally know the truth of what happened back then. The god of destruction opened his eyes with interest and looked at Florence, who had a slight smile on the corner of his mouth. Humph, you've punched me so many times, it's time for me to fight back. Xiao Wukong, whose face was swollen and looked like a pig's head, smiled brightly. This smile caused Florence, who turned back, to be slightly stunned. You don't look like him at all. Florence snorted coldly, making Wukong tense all over, but the beating he imagined did not appear. On the contrary, a green light popped out from the fingertips of the terrifying human being in front of him, instantly wrapping Wukong inside. Green light quickly repaired Xiao Wukong's body. Ah, I'm okay, I'm really okay. Xiao Wukong was jumping on the spot excitedly, and his strength was only a little bit higher than the original after such a torment. HMPH, do it yourself. Florence ignored Xiao Wukong, but strode into the back of the car and sat in. Wow, monsters eat people, monsters eat people. Wukong was very puzzled that such a terrifying person was actually sent into the mouth of the monster by himself. Boy, did you come from deep in the mountains. You don't even know the car. Abu immediately cursed at Wukong speechlessly. Huh, how did you know that? Wukong Chunmeng's appearance made the three people in the car speechless. After that, Abu and Wukong were discussing what is the difference between a man and a woman and what a car is. And Wukong's low IQ also successfully refreshed the lower limit of God of Destruction's cognition. Come on, I'll be exhausted if I teach such a kid. The God of Destruction groaned, while Florence, who was beside him, hesitated several times. You want to ask about your father? The God of Destruction yawned boredly and asked Florence. Well, that's right, because I saw the tears in Bardock's eyes 1,000 years ago before he died, and I've been wondering why he was crying for me. Florence knew that she was absolutely right. What, is this kid still crying? The God of Destruction was slightly taken aback. Why didn't he know about this? Immediately, the God of Destruction recalled the situation back then in his mind. Watching the movie-like scenes in my memory flow one by one, the God of Destruction fixed it a few seconds before Florence died. In the picture, Bardock, you roared and fired a cannon, which just hit Florence, who had gone berserk. Suddenly it was here, the ground was shaken by Bardock's shock wave, and the dust flying all over the sky slowly fell after Florence rushed to the sky. And the undead Bardock is just below the dust. Ah, squinting. Bardock's words instantly made God of Destruction speechless. Damn, it's actually really sand in my eyes. Looking at Florence with a look of anticipation in front of him, the God of Destruction is not good at attacking the other party. Well, yes, he was crying because you had to die, definitely not because the sand flew up and squinted his eyes or something. The God of Destruction's words gave Florence a sigh of relief. Sure enough, Bardock was forced to leave me back then. He said, did you do it, Lord God of Destruction? PFF'd. Florence's words made the God of Destruction spurt out a mouthful of old blood. This is all associated with the truth of the matter, and he is convinced. It seems that it should be, but for the sake of seeing Sister Weiss let me find the meaning of life, I won't care about you anymore. Florence's words made the God of Destruction almost laugh while holding her stomach. Find the meaning of life. Your meaning is to be a women's clothing boss. God of Destruction thought wickedly. It's just that I want this kid to grow up healthy in the future. The God of Destruction doesn't know the meaning of Florence's words, that is, to let him not harm his brother. I'm not in the mood to argue with this kid. Lower my IQ. The God of Destruction smiled disdainfully. He couldn't communicate with a preschooler like Wukong. Shaolun, Big Meow I know the whereabouts of the third Dragon Ball. It's in this kid's house. At this moment, Abu's surprised voice came from the car. Chapter 56. Are you a man? A few minutes later, several people have come to Xiao Wukong's house and successfully got the 4 planets. In order to let Xiao Wukong give her the 4 planets, then under Abu's flickering, Xiao Wukong got into the car of the god of destruction, sitting right next to Florence. Will this person hit me again if he doesn't like me? Xiao Wukong looked at Florence, whose complexion was a little cold since he saw him, and couldn't help swallowing. The car started off again soon after. Xiao Wukong looked at the picture of the roadside speeding backwards with novelty, and felt extremely novel. After scanning everywhere, Wukong looked suspiciously at Florence, who was sitting beside him. Then, this strong man, are you a man or a woman? Xiao Wukong's words suddenly calmed the air. You, no, yes, myself, look. Florence said this word by word with a cold face. Ha 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 ha, Wukong is really interesting, he can even ask this question. Abu smiled happily, and she had a deep understanding of Xiao Wukong regardless of gender. The god of destruction on the side thought of something, and his face suddenly became a little exciting. Sure enough, in the divine consciousness that the god of destruction was surreptitiously checking. In Florence's liver-colored eyes. Yeah, you're a man. As soon as these words came out, the god of destruction couldn't help it. Ha 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 ha, Goku ah Goku, you are so fucking talented. Not only was the god of destruction laughing so happy that he couldn't stand upright, but Abu's laughter was trembling uncontrollably. Ha ha ha, Wukong, didn't I tell you just now that the people below are men like you, and the ones with nothing are women? Abu smiled and reminded kindly. Yes, it's the same as me down there. I'm not mistaken. At this moment, Xiao Wukong spoke very stubbornly. On the side, Florence silently stretched out her hand and lifted Wukong's back collar. Ah, Xiaolun, what are you doing? Little Goku has not sensed the danger coming. As soon as his words came out, he felt like the whole day was spinning. I saw that Florence opened the car door and threw Xiao Wukong into the sky. Then his own figure disappeared into the car. Hey, what is Xiaolun doing? Abu asked the god of destruction suspiciously. Oh, it's okay, it's just domestic violence against the bear child. Sure enough, it didn't take long for Xiao Wukong's shrill screams to be heard in the sky. A few minutes later, Florence returned to the car with Goku unscathed. If it weren't for the screams just now, Abu suspects that Florence didn't do anything to Xiao Wukong at all. But Goku was very excited. Because he was beaten, and after repairing his body, Xiao Wukong's strength actually increased a lot. Hey, if I do this a few times a day, will I be able to defeat the gorilla monster soon? Goku almost drooled. In the next few days, Wukong went to provoke Florence, intentionally or unintentionally. The look of death made Abu and the god of destruction go head to head. After a few times, they didn't know what Xiao Wukong was thinking, and more often, even Florence was tired of it. After he beat Wukong for the last time, Wukong, who was lying on the ground and moaning constantly, was very happy. Hey, this time I'll be stronger again. But his wishful thinking failed this time. Florence directly mentioned the little Goku who was seriously injured and couldn't move, and threw it into the trunk. Wukong was immediately stunned. That, Xiaolun, did you forget to do something? Goku weakly reminded Florence. What? I didn't kick you down today, don't you think it's fun? Florence's faint voice suddenly made Xiao Wukong shut his mouth. Xiao Wukong, who knew that his plan was shattered, could only hide in the trunk to give himself medicine. Thorn. Suddenly, the car braked sharply, instantly throwing Wukong, who was hiding behind the wound, flying backwards. Goku, who fell to the ground and rolled a few times, stood up in pain. What's the matter? The dizzy little Wukong rubbed his aching head and looked at the car beside him, only to see that the people in the car didn't seem to see him falling out of the car. What a big rock, fortunately I brake fast. Abu's happy voice came over. It turns out that there are stones, so that's fine. Wukong rubbed his head happily, and then walked towards the car. Boom. Just as Xiao Wukong was about to walk to the car roared and disappeared in front of him. In the wind, only the seriously injured little Wukong was left in a mess. After a few seconds, Goku finally reacted. I haven't gotten in the car yet. Xiao Wukong hurriedly dragged his limping feet and chased the car that had gone far ahead. I saw a black spot chasing a small jeep in the endless desert. Hours passed in the blink of an eye. The injured, hungry little Wukong walked slower and slower, and finally ended up dead in the desert. Don't chase, it's too bullying, I'm starving. Xiao Wukong had already given up on himself, lying directly on the ground and fell into a drowsy sleep. Countless sandstorms slowly covered up Xiao Wukong. After an unknown time, Xiao Wukong heard a familiar sound of a car. He slowly opened his eyes and saw a car slowly driving towards him. It's Abu and the others, they're so good to be saved. There was a smile on the corner of Xiao Wukong's mouth. He had already thought about what to eat later. The god of destruction must get me a big fish. No, I want to. And just when Xiao Wukong was still imagining, the car had come to him, and just when he wanted to call Abu, the car rolled over him without stopping. Hey, Xiaolun, didn't you say that Xiao Wukong is nearby? Why haven't you seen him yet? Abu asked suspiciously while driving the car. Ah. At this time, a scream that was familiar to the three came over. Abu quickly stepped on the brakes and stopped the car. It's Goku, he should be nearby. Abu hurriedly opened the door in excitement. Oh, Abu B. The god of destruction wanted to stop it, but found it was too late. Little Wukong, who was pressed by the wheels on the ground, struggled in pain. Just when he wanted to call Abu for help, the door opened. Before Xiao Wukong was happy for a long time, he saw a shoe sole getting closer and closer to his face. I saw that Abu's foot stepped on Xiao Wukong's face to the ground. Huh, why is there no sound? Abu asked suspiciously. The god of destruction and Florence in the car were already dark. Hey, Xiaolun, save Wukong. God of destruction sighed. A few minutes later, Wukong, who had recovered completely, ate his meals with a suffocated expression on his face. After Abu's constant apology, Xiao Wukong forgave her. 2 days later, a few people came to a valley and picked up the old turtle, and then Xiao Wukong decided to send him back to the sea. After that, Turtle called Turtle Immortal in order to thank Wukong. Hello everyone, I'm Turtle Immortal. The Turtle Immortal stepped on the sea turtle and landed on the shore, and his eyes were instantly attracted by the beautifully dressed Florence. Chapter 57, Dragon Ball Gathering. The dragon is here. Miss, I don't know if I can know your name. The Turtle Immortal, who had been on the tortoise shell a second ago, came to Florence in an instant, with a wretched expression that made the god of destruction in the car roll his eyes helplessly. Is this old man the Turtle Immortal you said? Abu glanced contemptuously at the Turtle Fairy, who had ignored him, and asked the old turtle in confusion. Ah, although the Turtle Fairy looks a little unreliable, it's still very good. The old turtle could only helplessly defend. If you keep staring at me like this, be careful I poke your eyes out. Florence's words made the Turtle Immortal tremble, because he had already felt the slightest aura leaked out by Florence at will. Miss is the real murderer. A mortal turtle could only look away from what he thought was profound. By the way, it's you who saved the old turtle, very good boy. If that's the case, I'll give you a present. A mortal turtle straightened his back, forcing the appearance of a worldly master. Gift? What gift? Xiao Wukong asked suspiciously. Haha, of course it's a good thing. A mortal turtle smiled mysteriously, then came to the beach and raised the crutches in his hand and shouted at the sky. Come here, Phoenix. The shouting of the immortal turtle made Abu Xiao Wukong very excited. Phoenix, it sounds awesome, okay. However, a few minutes passed, and there was still no movement in the sky. Ah, Turtle Immortal, didn't that Phoenix guy die from food poisoning a year ago? The old turtle's words suddenly made the Turtle Fairy smile awkwardly. Haha, why did I forget about this one? Mistakes and mistakes. Turtle Immortal touched his head. Didn't you say Phoenix? How can it still die? Abu complained. Hey, I just gave him this name because I hoped he wouldn't die. If that's the case, I'll give you something else. Having said that, the turtle fairy shouted again, somersault cloud. Then a marshmallow flew from the sky. And the god of destruction with Haish in the car saw at a glance that the cotton candy was the yellow cloud above the snake road in the underworld. After the turtle immortal showed everyone how to lose his face more thoroughly, his original image that was not very tall completely collapsed. Okay, the things are given to you, you can go too. Immortal Turtle knew that his face was almost lost, and he hurriedly issued an expulsion order. At this moment, the dragon ball hanging on his neck caught Abu's attention. What? Do you want this bead? Talking. The turtle fairy sunglasses flashed a ray of light. Yes, we also saved this old turtle. No firm no, you still want to make me into soup. Abu's bold words were instantly pierced by the old turtle. Well, then there is no way. Turtle Immortal's words made Abu lost for a while. But, suddenly, a lewd smile flashed on the corner of Immortal Turtle's mouth. Unless what? Abu asked excitedly. Unless either of you two show me the fat times, just a small glance will do. Turtle Immortal said with a blushing face. What? Just when Turtle Immortal had just finished speaking, a cold voice suddenly shocked Turtle Immortal. After seeing Florence's cold eyes, the Turtle Immortal was cowardly. I'm joking, there's no such thing at all. The Turtle Immortal wisely took off the Dragon Ball on his neck and hurriedly stuffed it into Florence's hand. Give it to you, the old man will leave first if he has something to do. After speaking, the Turtle Fairy sat on the old turtle and left the place in a hurry. HMPH, it's still interesting. After Florence snorted coldly, they set off again after getting the 2-star Dragon Ball. A few months later, they met the beautiful Oolong. After being beaten by Florence, Oolong was almost washed by Xiao Wukong. They successfully collected the 7 Dragon Balls according to the route in the original book. But this time it was a lot different. Oolong did not join the team. Yucha fell in love with this beautiful women's clothing boss the first second he saw Florence. However, Chi-Chi was still attacked by Xiao Wukong and vowed to marry each other. Abu's words still wanted to find a handsome guy, because drinking tea to see the pig brother in Florence is really ugly. Roar. After a huge roar of the dragon, a huge dragon circled and rushed into the sky. People who have collected Dragon Balls, what is your wish? Any wish can come true, but there is only one. The mighty and domineering appearance of Shenlong made the following Xiao Wukong stunned. HMPH, a bunch of scumbags, aren't intimidated by Benlong's mighty and domineering appearance, alas, an invincible life, lonely as snow. The dragon in the sky was bored and looked around from the corner of his eye. Suddenly, a figure made him stunned. I saw the god of destruction with his hands behind his back, staring at himself with golden eyes. Shenlong, who knows almost everything in the universe, doesn't know who the person in front of him is. Bibi, the god of destruction. Why are you here? Shenlong's stammering words stunned the people on the ground who were still discussing who said their wishes. Nani, even Shenlong is calling the god of destruction, what the hell is going on? Shaolun, who the hell is the god of destruction? Questions were asked one by one from Abu's drinking coffee table. Shenlong, who thought he was like a god, nodded to the god of destruction. This god of destruction, who usually doesn't talk much, but everyone obeys his words, has such a high background. Of course they didn't know that the god of destruction was much higher than they thought. Quote. Why don't you care about me here? I'll ask you now, what is the seal in your body? The light golden hole of the god of destruction exudes a great deterrent power. Under his gaze, Shenlong trembled and did not dare to hide. Returning to the god of destruction, these are all demons from the ancient times. The arrival of each generation of Shenlong means that several demons sealed in Shenlong realm are transferred to Shenlong's body as an energy source. Each of these demons is very powerful, and as long as the wish made by the person who wishes with the Dragon Ball is not positive, it will generate enormous negative energy to corrode the seal in the dragon, and finally release these demons. The god of destruction frowned slightly at Shenlong's stammering explanation. This divine dragon above the earth can be said to be the most rubbish among the divine dragons, but that's it. The most powerful demons sealed in him have reached about a gigabyte in the god of destruction's inspection. Ho ha ho ho, is the god of destruction frightened? At this moment, Whis' voice reached the ears of the god of destruction. The next step may be a bit of foreshadowing, that is, adding some authors themselves an online analysis of ancient times. On to Dragon Ball Z. Chapter 58, Haven't you already been killed by him once? I saw Whis, who had recovered to the appearance of a priest, flew down from the sky. Didn't you go shopping for cosmetics? You're back like this. The god of destruction raised his eyelids and said to Whis, who flew down. Ho ha ho, of course people have something to do. Let's go, Lord Destruction God. There is still something to deal with in Destruction God realm. Whis said to the god of destruction with a smile. Alright, it's almost enough to relax. The god of destruction gave a wicked smile, and then a burst of purple light burst out from his body. After the light dissipated, the original god of destruction's casual clothes instantly transformed into a god of destruction suit. And the power exuded at this moment instantly made the gods in the heavens who did not know that a big man was coming almost fell to the ground in fright. What a powerful breath, Mr. Bobo, do you know the identity of this god of destruction? God originally observed the lower realm around the heavenly realm when the dragon appeared. God, from the words of this person who just appeared, it can be heard that this god of destruction should be the highest god of the universe, the god of destruction. Bobo's face has always been calm, but now he can't calm down anymore. God of destruction, this is a god that is several levels higher than the god of heaven, and there is no god more advanced than this in this universe. God of destruction, I don't know if he is stronger than Lord Kai. The solemn words of the gods made Bobo on the side break into a cold sweat. Compared with the Realm King, God, you are afraid that it is not Shilezi. And even the Realm King can be compared with the god of destruction. But Bobo didn't remind the god of God. After all, sometimes ignorance is also a blessing. Let's go, Whis, this suit is more comfortable to wear. God of destruction Haitian came to Whis with his hands behind his back. Sister Whis, what are you doing? Abu widened his eyes. She's not a fool, Whis can tell at a glance that he is a man. Ho ha ho. Little Abu, we're leaving. Xiaolun's words will be taken care of by you. Maybe we'll be back in a few years. After Whis finished speaking, he nodded to Florence. Yes, I will take good care of Xiaolun. Abu, who was still confused, could only nod his head in confusion. On the other hand, Xiao Wukong is the real fool. Because it was only during this time that he learned to distinguish between men and women in this way. And now the appearance of Whis has made him stunned again. He originally thought that Whis was a man, but Abu actually called him sister. Looks like it's going to be a good test. Xiao Wukong touched his chin, and then sneakily bypassed the dragon and came to the back of Whis. Little devil, what are you doing? When Shenlong saw Wukong's actions, he didn't know that the other party wanted to do something bad. He quickly stopped him. If this angered the priest, he would destroy himself and the earth. Who would he turn to reason with? Shenlong's words immediately made everyone turn their attention to Goku behind Whis. Hey, it was discovered. Wukong scratched his head in embarrassment. Wukong, what are you doing there? Come back to me quickly. Abu quickly ran over and brought Wukong over. Ho ha ho ho, this kid is quite interesting. Whis smiled slightly. Yeah, very interesting. This kid is going to attack your big cock. God of destruction evil thoughts. Okay, stop talking nonsense. We're leaving, we'll see you again later. Let's go, Whis. After speaking, the two instantly turned into a light and disappeared into the air. Seeing the god of destruction disappearing out of thin air, The people at the coffee table widened their eyes in disbelief. Okay, what's your wish? I'm leaving after you say it. The magnificent voice of Shenlong woke people up at this moment. I almost forgot, Xiaolun, what is your wish? Abu has now given up looking for his Prince Charming. As for the reason, I will explain it later. My wish. Well, I'll just ask a question. Florence's eyes flashed and she took a slight step forward. Shenlong, I want to know if my father really wanted to kill me back then. Florence has been struggling with this issue, and asked Whis, because of the god of destruction. Whis did not say anything. Florence's words made the people around them stunned. The red light in the eyes of the dragon in the sky flickered slightly. Hasn't he already killed you once? Shenlong's words shocked everyone. Abu's face suddenly turned pale. Little Xiaolun, are you a ghost? Not to mention Abu, even a big man who was drinking tea took a step back in fright. I actually fell in love with ghosts. Yucha swallowed slightly. Of course, Florence ignored these people. Shenlong's words made his face darken. However, Bardock has foreseen your death, and your fate has been doomed. Shenlong's sudden speech made Florence frown slightly. My destiny, what destiny? Florence asked suspiciously. After that, Shenlong talked about the conflict between the legendary Super Saiyan and the ordinary Super Saiyan. When he heard that the ordinary Super Saiyan was destined to kill Xuanchao, Florence's face became serious. And Bardock predicted that you would be with Kakarot after 1,000 years, so he decided to perish with you according to what he predicted, so that your curse could be lifted. After Shenlong finished speaking, Florence fell silent. Humph, who wants him to save me? I'm being amorous. Florence smiled disdainfully, but Abu and the others on the side could see the sadness between his brows. Okay, I have fulfilled your wish for you, and there will be a period in the future. After Shenlong finished speaking, he instantly turned into 7 rays of light and disappeared into the starry sky. Ah, Grandpa flew away. Xiao Wukong was immediately stunned, and suddenly a feeling of being deceived came to his mind. Abu, didn't you say that you will return it to my grandpa after the end? Now grandpa is flying away. Xiao Wukong is narcissistic and complaining to Abu cutely. Ah, I didn't know it would be like this. By the way, I remember that it was recorded in the book that after a year, Dragon Ball will regain its splendor, and then you can go back to Dragon Ball again. Abu smiled awkwardly. Master Yucha, this Abu is really a deceitful person. He even knows that Dragon Ball will recover in a year. How could he not know that Dragon Ball will be scattered after the wish is over? Pu'er looked at Abu with contempt, fooling Wukong there. The disappearance of Shenlong means that this Dragon Ball journey has come to an end. Xiao Wukong separated a few people and came to the Turtle Immortal house to practice together with Kaylin, who had just arrived. Florence and Abu returned to Exedu to go to school. After all, this was explained by Weiss before he left. Yucha is a full-time bodyguard in Florence who spent a lot of money inserting herself into their school. In the Destruction God realm in the depths of the endless starry sky, the Destruction God encountered a headache. Chapter 59. A maddening decision. Weiss, are you saying that King Quan is doing something wrong? What do you mean my overall strength in the 7th universe is not up to the standard? This time, Wes hurriedly called himself back and gave him an emergency notice. The general meaning is the same as in the original work, because the overall strength of the 7th universe is not up to the standard, so King Quan means that if after 50 years, if the standard is still not up to standard, the 7th universe will be destroyed. Of course, there are other universes within this range. Ho ha ho, the god of destruction is so pitiful, it seems that there is only 50 years to enjoy. Weiss looked at the frowning god of destruction and couldn't stop laughing. Fuck off, your sister, you know every day to gloat in misfortune, and if I die, I will drag you down with me. God of destruction spat at Wes. It seems that this matter needs to be discussed with the Kaiwangshan and the others. The god of destruction touched his chin. After all, these things are not something he can decide alone. Let's go to the realm of the king of the gods. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. Ellipsis 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 ellipsis. In the realm of the realm, a red-skinned man with long hair and a shawl was doing push-ups with difficulty on an open space. 108, 109, 110. Come on, you kid can't do it with 1,000 times the gravity. It's too rubbish. Next to the god of Jabe, sat an old man, who was watching happily with a small yellow book. From time to time, he also hits the god of Jabet. In the original work, the strength of the god of Jabe has reached the Super 2 realm of the Prince of Puwu and the others, and his situation is different from that of the prince and the others. The prince and the others have to transform to have this strength, and the real-world king has this strength in normal state. Therefore, the current Jabet god can move freely under 1,000 times the gravity. After all, the prince in the original book could only hover below 500 times when he was Super 2. Ancestor, I am a noble realm god, why do I have to practice like this arrogant man? God Jabet said to the old Kaiwang god unwillingly. However, the hand did not dare to stop. Are you too embarrassed to say it? Do you know that although the Kaiwang god dozens of generations ago did not say that he was at the same level as the god of destruction, he wouldn't be so weak, right? Look at you, you were actually killed by a demon whose strength has not recovered at all. There is only one Boo left to kill, and there is still a face to complain. Today, the penalty will be increased tenfold, and if you say more, it will double. The old Kaiwang god scolded the complaining god Jibei and then looked at his little yellow book. Oh, was the Kaiwangshan so powerful from dozens of generations ago? At this moment, the voice of the god of destruction descended from the sky, scaring the old god of the realm to hide his little yellow book in a hurry. Huh, god of destruction, why are you here? The old realm king hurriedly ran over and bowed to the god of destruction. I have seen the god of destruction. Jabet stood up sweating profusely, and bowed to the god of destruction. Yo, the strength has soared, it seems that there has been no practice in vain for thousands of years. The god of destruction glanced at the god of destruction, whose strength had already reached Super 3, and said. Looking at the potential of Kaiwangshan is still good, but it is too lazy. Also, this race has good strength from birth, and it can become very strong even without cultivation. If it is such a good thing, why do you have to work hard to cultivate? The god of destruction is joking. If this kid wasn't urged every day, he would still be hovering at the previous level. The old Kaiwang deity glared at the god of destruction, who was triumphant under the praise of the god of destruction. Okay, this time I have something to say. The god of destruction interrupted the old Kaiwang god. Oh, god of destruction, please tell me. The old realm king said suspiciously. Afterwards, the god of destruction forwarded the words of King Quan to the old Kaiwang god. What? Doesn't this mean that we only have 50 years to live? Then I'm still practicing wool, so I won't do it. After hearing that he only had 50 years to live, the god Jabet simply quit. Nani, you quit at this critical time. You forgot how the great realm king god and the others sacrificed their lives to save you. The old Kaiwang god hated the iron and knocked on the head of the god of Jabet. Oh, I'm just talking about it. Don't be so serious. Jabet rubbed his head and grinned. That's the way it is. Speaking of which, you realm gods are really too lazy. The previous great realm gods were like this, and you are still like this now. The task assigned by King Quan has been made clear long ago. The responsibility of the Kaiwang god is not only to protect the stability of the universe, but also to undertake the growth of the universe. God of Destruction's indifferent words embarrassed God Jabet slightly. After all, he can't even imagine how lazy he is. In the past, I knew that I ate, slept, and ate, and those who worked were too lazy to do it. Even the Kurds are too lazy to move a finger to destroy others in the universe. The degree of laziness can be imagined. Yes, what the god of destruction said is, I will definitely teach this kid well in the future. The old realm god hurriedly came out to round up the field. You still have the guts to say it. You're not too young. Is it interesting to read this kind of book every day? Without saying anything, he glanced at the old realm king, and then a little empty, the little yellow book hidden by the old realm was found. Immediately, the face of the old realm king turned red. I've decided that from today onwards, you will let the realm kings in various places issue orders throughout the universe. That is to say, from now on, I will conduct a power assessment of each planet and each force every year. As long as the annual growth rate is less than 50%, it will be destroyed. The icy words of the god of destruction made the old Kaiwangshan and Jabit startled, and the two looked at each other in disbelief. Even Weiss gave the god of destruction a surprised look. Bibibi, god of destruction, are you mistaken? The old Kaiwangshan stammered. If he really followed the words of the god of destruction, he could be sure that after a year, 99% of the planet would be destroyed. You think I'm joking, but one thing I haven't said yet, the people who are evaluated are only adult intelligent races of various races. The god of destruction also knows that if all races are evaluated, some races with low IQs who do not understand their own words will face direct cleansing. And the races with many young people will be destroyed due to the drag of the young population, so the god of destruction made this decision. Cuckoo. The two realm gods looked at each other and swallowed their saliva in resignation. It seemed that the god of destruction was serious. What? I wasn't clear enough. The god of destruction snorted coldly as he looked at the two Kaikin gods who were still in a daze. Yes, we'll go and do it right away. God of destruction, please wait a moment. The realm king was so frightened that he hurriedly teleported and disappeared in the realm of the realm king. Whether it can reach the standard of not being destroyed within 50 years depends on your fortune. The god of destruction looked at the sky with a cold expression. Chapter 60, Demon King God Realm. God of destruction, are you sure you want to do this? The consequences are very serious. Weiss smiled and said to the god of destruction. He seemed calm, but he was also slightly anxious. After all, if the seventh universe was destroyed, he would have to return to the place where the angel was born and wait for the birth of the next universe. At least it will take billions of years. Humph. I know very well what I'm doing. People have a kind of inertia, which can never be changed. Only when there is infinite pressure, will power be generated. The god of destruction snorted coldly, then ignored it and teleported directly to the All-King realm. Yeah, god of destruction, here you come. Bring me the next episode of Peppa Pig. The god of destruction had just arrived in the Quanwang realm when he saw Quanwang rolling in the mud, and a drop of cold sweat the size of a bean dripped down his forehead. Ah, I'm here, but Peppa Pig is gone. This is a gourd baby, you look at it first. He felt that he had to teach the little boy King Quan well, and he would give him Peppa Pig again. Hulu baby, what is this? Quan Wong looked at the CD in his hand curiously. Okay, this time, I'm just passing by the Quan Wong Ji, you have a good time, I'll go first. The god of destruction looked at King Jaeon who was excitedly watching TV with the CD-ROM, and said something to his back. Ah, god of destruction, aren't you talking about the cosmic power assessment? King Quan looked at the god of destruction dumbly. If you don't want to take the assessment, I can directly exclude the seventh universe, so that you don't have to worry about being eliminated. King Quan's words are very clear, that is, he is going to open the back door. After all, if he really wants to destroy these 12 universes, he will destroy them all, and no one will say anything. Anyway, everything is under his control. This is not necessary, let's talk about it later. The god of destruction waved his hand and directly declined the kindness of King Quan. How could the god of destruction accept alms from others? If the big deal is still not up to the standard, I will come back to King Quan to speak. Isn't it really necessary? That's fine. King Quan tilted his head in confusion. Well, That's it. I'm going to the demon world, and I'll talk about it later. After the god of destruction and King Quan said a word, they disappeared in a teleport. He came to the Quanwang realm to find out what Quanwang said. After all, he was still a little worried that the people in the seventh universe would not live up to their expectations, and in the end did not meet the requirements of Quanwang. Among the 12 universes, each universe has a corresponding demon world. In the demon world, there are not only powerful demons, but also demon kings and demon kings who have defected from the universe. Demon kings and demon kings are both the original kings or kings of kings who were invaded by darkness, or new demons born after their inner blackness. Of course, there are also some Kai-no gods and Kai-os who are pursuing power and are automatically blackened. Because after blackening, their strength will increase by dozens or even hundreds of times. However, these demon kings and demon king gods have high self-esteem, and they simply disdain to be in the company of people from the demon world. Therefore, a demon king god realm has been opened in the demon world to live in it. Lord Demon King God, our spies in the human world have sent a message that the god of destruction, seems to have issued a cosmic statement in the universe. As long as the strength does not increase by 50% every year, the planet will face destruction. In a tall shrine in the demon realm god realm, a burly man was sitting on the throne listening to the report of a man with tentacles above his head. If you look closely, you will find that this god called the demon king of the great realm looks almost the same as the king of the king, and there is not much difference at all except that he is taller and has jet black hair. Master God of Destruction really said that. It seems that something big has happened in the human world. The demon king god frowned, because he knew that this matter was not as simple as it seemed. Yeah, something did happen in the human world. At this moment, a figure that destroyed the sky and the earth slowly fell from the sky, and the originally peaceful realm of the realm couldn't stop shaking, as if it would be destroyed in the next second. What happened? What happened to the demon king god realm? What a powerful power, have you felt it? The source of the power seems to be in the temple of the king of the great realm. So familiar power, yes, it is the breath of the god of destruction. In the demon king god realm, some of the demon king gods worked together with the god of destruction, but after being demonized, they were replaced by other people. In just an instant, the aura of the god of destruction was recognized by them. I don't know why the god of destruction came to the demon king god realm. Alas, I hope it's not a bad thing. More than a dozen demon realm kings and gods teleported towards the demon realm king temple with all the demon realm kings under him in an uneasy mood. The blackening of the demon king god is actually just a different method, or, except for the king of the realm who will investigate this matter, the whole king will not pay attention to it. Swipe. Figures appeared in the temple of the demon king, and after they arrived, they saw the god of destruction sitting on the main seat board and drinking a little wine. The demon realm king god respectfully stood aside. I have seen the god of destruction. The trembling gods of the demon realm hurriedly saluted the god of destruction. It's really the god of destruction. What exactly is the god of destruction going to do? Isn't the god of destruction generally not going to enter the devil world? Did someone offend the god of destruction? Looking at the silent god of destruction above, the people below fell into panic. The god of destruction has a problem that bothers him at this time. The wine here doesn't taste like alcohol. What's the situation? It's obviously the juice. And the demon king god below saw the god of destruction frown more and more tightly, and their hearts beat faster and faster. Quack. Suddenly, an old realm king who was over 10,000 years old fell to the ground slowly, clutching his heart. After all, realm kings are different from realm king gods, and they have a lifespan limit. It's not good to throw it out quickly, don't spoil the pleasure of the god of destruction. The demon realm king god hurriedly waved his hand and sent the old realm king, who was frightened to death by the tense atmosphere, out of the demon realm king god realm. The god of destruction looked at this scene coldly, and was actually quite stunned. Damn, is I so scary? Is it necessary to be scared to death? Do you want to touch porcelain? But God of Destruction also knew that the pressure he put on them was a little too big. Okay, since everyone's here, I'll start talking. The indifferent words of the God of Destruction made everyone straighten their backs and listen intently. Starting today, I will take over the demon world of the seventh universe. There was a cold aura in the eyes of the God of Destruction today.